Starting the recording. Hello and welcome. My name is Art Jones. I am the principal consultant at The Art of Standing Out. And The Art of Standing Out is really built on the notion that we do brand strategy. We help you with storytelling so you can market to the audiences of ideal prospects that you're in service to. And the interesting thing that happened when I chose that name, The Art of Standing Out, was that I shortened it, the TAO, the art of, is really the Tao. And then Chinese philosophy, that's alignment and harmony. So it really does resonate with me that the Tao is in my name, The Art of Standing Out, TAO, because my mission is to help businesses and business professionals gain alignment in themselves first, and then with the audience of ideal prospects and markets that they're in service to. So with that introduction, and Revel is my co-host sitting in the box next to me. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate that. And the theme is,
very welcome.
Do women make better leaders than men? The future of leadership. When I blab about whether it's brand strategy, storytelling, marketing, or sales, it's always using leadership as foundational to those things. Because absent leadership, what do we have? Absent the commitment to lead, what do we have? And this question today is really born out of an article that I read, 7 or 8 years ago. And it said that Desmond Tutu, the Pope, the Dalai Lama, and the list went on and on and on. A lot of thought leaders from our planet, the thoughtful thought leaders on our planet, all suggested that if women were in the lead in business and government, that the world would be in a much better place. And, that stuck with me because I not only have the benefit of having the TAO, the art of being TAO, or the Tao, all about alignment and harmony, in my business name, but I've done Tai Chi for decades. And so I'm familiar with the notion of yin and yang. And, women are yin, men are yang. Women are from Venus, men are from Mars. And when we think, and there may have been a time, and I'm sure, I'm not a really great historian, but when we look at our past, when we were becoming, well, I'm not going to go there. It's too steeped in history. I was going to go with a little Genghis Khan story there to talk about when men were men, but I think that's kind of counterintuitive to the story that we're wanting to get to today, because really what I want to do is read some of the statistics that I picked off of the internet, and I'll just read them for you. Women make up half of the workforce. Women are 3% of the CEOs. Women are 14% of the senior executives, 20% of VPs, 37% of supervisors, 53% of new hires. So we're hiring more women, but only 3% of them rise to the station of CEO. Only 14% of those, more than half of the new hires, attain the rank of C-level executive, COO, CFO, CEO, all of the C-level executives. Only 14% are represented by women. 26%, a quarter, are VPs, women are VPs, and 37% are supervisors. 53% are new hires. And so there's a disparity there. And here's the most interesting statistic. This is the one that really is cornerstone to this idea. Overall leadership effectiveness, hold on to your seats, folks. Men, 51.8%. And they're most effective between the age of 25 and 30. I remember those days when I was between the age of 25 and 30. I was pretty damned effective. That was then, this is now. So men are 51.8% effective rating, but only between the age of 25 and 30. Women are 54.4% effective. But here's what I found interesting. More effective after the age of 40.
Mm-hmm.
And Revel says, of course, I knew that. For me, that was a new statistic. I had not heard that statistic before. I said, wow. So for me, it was validating what the Dalai Lama had said and Desmond Tutu had said a long time ago. I think what the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu were referring to was more women are from Venus, men are from Mars. Men, we see things that are broken. We want to fix it. We don't ask questions. We just go, we get duct tape. We fix it. Women see something that's broken and say, I wonder why that's broken. There's a couple of ways I could fix this. Let's see. I don't know how to fix this. Let me ask somebody. Let me ask the best people how to fix this. And ends up with better outcomes and more patience as the outcome is approached, more negotiation as you move toward decisions. And I just got a text. My daughter-in-law is asking me if I want to bring my dog out to their house so my grandchildren can play with the puppy this afternoon. Aww. Yeah, that's kind of nice. I think I will. So do women make better leaders than men? The statistics seem to bear out that they do, but the statistics bear out something that's a little troubling, which is in spite of women being more effective, there are fewer women in the leadership positions. And hopefully we get to change that because, and I think we are headed in that direction. When I think of, IBM is headed by a woman, Xerox is headed by a woman, Indira Nuru, I think she's at Coca-Cola or at Pepsi, one of those big companies is headed by a woman. And we have women that have now ascended to the highest rank in the corporate world. We have Angela Merkel, who's a government leader. And I think many other nation states have women as leaders. So perhaps we're recognizing the error in our ways. Here's more statistics, and then I'm going to open up the other two seats and hopefully get other people to share what they think of why these statistics are clear, but why still the dearth of women in positions of responsibility. So, leadership competencies. Takes initiative, and this is just statistics. Takes initiative, male, 49.8%. Female, 56.4%. Displays high integrity and honesty. Men, 49.9%. Women, 54.7%. And this is Business Insider, which is a fairly well-respected journal. I could have gone to Harvard Business Review and Forbes and some others, but I stopped at this one because I like the breadth of statistics and proof source that they share. Drives for results. Now, with women from Venus and men from Mars, I would think the driven would be more in the male favor, but drives for results, 50.6% male, 55.2% women. Go figure. So even my perception of my gender, I was gender wrong on that one. Practices self-development. Male, 51.3. Female, 56%. Develops others. Mm-hmm. Men being in the positions longer, over time, over centuries, you would think we had built up some DNA to be better at developing women. However, develops others, 51.1% male. 55.1% female. And I think that probably comes from nurturing and listening. Mm-hmm. Inspires and motivates others. 51.6% male. 55.1% female. Builds relationships, 51.2 male, 54.5 female. Collaboration and teamwork, 52.1 male, 54.5 female. Champions change, 51.6 male, 54.0 female. Establishes stretch goals, 51.7 male, 54.1 female. I can go on and on, but you get the drift. These statistics bear out. This is a 360-degree feedback instrument that was used to on these 16 competencies, of which I've read you some, and the chart shows the differences between men and women, and it's heavily weighted toward women. So, Scheller Anna says men and women need to work together, uniting strengths and complementing weaknesses. Right on. I agree with that. More patient, sometimes women can be very driving. I know that. I'm married. I've got a wife. I know how that works.
Yeah.
So let's open up the other two seats, Rebel. There's two more. Jump into the chairs, folks, and let's turn this into a conversation.
Oops.
And here comes Cherie Douglas.
That's quick. There she is.
Sharita, welcome. Scheller Anna says, yeah, Art, so does my husband. I think all men that we all know the power of women. Hi, guys.
Hi,
Sharita.
how are you? Can you hear me?
Good. I can hear you well, yes.
Great. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Just busy today.
I know you had a call with your colleagues in Ethiopia. It sounded like. That's cool.
Yeah, we're talking about an organization that wants our services, and so we're trying to put together a proposal and all this stuff. So
nice.
Hopefully going there soon.
Nice. You have to freeze dry some Ethiopian food and send it to me. I love Ethiopian food. I'm kind of quasi-vegetarian anyway, so Ethiopian food works well for me.
Yeah, it does.
So, Sharita, what are your thoughts on those statistics and this topic in general?
Well, I love the topic. Haha.
Go figure.
No, and I love your perspective of the topic as well. So I think that it's absolutely spot on. There was a time when we were a matriarchal society. Of course, that changed, and it seems to be that I think women tend to lead better just because of compassion. And like you said, nurturing in nature. We see things a little bit broader than men tend to because they get tunnel vision for ego.
Yeah, we do.
So, yeah.
We want to win. We want to win is where it comes from. Yeah.
And I think with women, it's more about everyone winning. Sometimes men, it's we want to win. Me.
Yeah.
Instead of, what everyone winning. So there's a big difference there.
Yeah. Welcome, Anna Jo Scheller.
Hey.
Are you the same Anna Jo that's on the Big Blab event singing "Joy to the World" with
That's
your daughter?
Me.
See, you've become a personality now. It's
good. That's why I'm here.
Fantastic. Welcome.
Thank you.
So what are your thoughts?
Well, it's really interesting because I'm a mom of 7, so I have a lot of experience with a lot of different personalities, which gives me a different kind of leadership role. And I lead a team for my housing business, and then I also work with my daughter in a sales training business. And I find that in the housing business, I'm very effective because you have to deal with people so much. And I'm a very customer care, customer service oriented kind of person, which is a great asset in a business like this. I find though that my husband gives me a balance because he works in the business too. And he gives me a balance to help me not err too much on the side of being gentle and kind, But he also brings that tough edge that I need to deal with people who walk out on leases. And, you know, my tendency is to say, well, yeah, whatever. I'll find another tenant. And his tendency is to say, we need to make them pay.
So you're saying that there's an importance to the balance that's achieved when you've got a duo of the male and female energy working together.
Yes, and I also think it's important that we learn to respect each other's differences. That can be a little tough at times because, you know, everybody, even as women, we like to be right. I do, personally. And so one of the things that my husband and I have been working on is learning how to resolve our differences without necessarily trying to control each other into conforming to what we want. Does that make sense?
Yes. So is that more? Anna? Is that more about beginning with empathy, or just being open to negotiations? And I guess that's saying the same thing. Empathy and negotiation for me are the same thing. What do you think?
Well, I think negotiation is really a powerful skill, because you have to be able to give people the space to be themselves, believe what they believe, and yet work to a win-win solution. That's business. That's life. That's family. That's marriage. That's running a business. And I think that's one of the things that women are stronger at, because we are more given to listening for the most part. We are more given to compassion and nurturing. So I think that's go ahead.
No, I think that's why, you know, when you look at social media, which has only been around in force for 10 years, and you look at a chart that would represent who's most engaged and who's more successful on social, there's more women that are successful on social than men for the very same reasons, because it's about nurturing conversations. It's about engaging and nurturing those conversations. And it's really, for me, social is really more about listening than broadcasting. Men want to broadcast, hey, I'm over here. And women are more apt to listen for a long time before joining the conversation. So when they join, they have something thoughtful, insightful, and compelling to say. So here's a question for the group. So we all agree. We read the statistics to set this conversation up. We understand the biology and the neurology that's in play. Nurturing and listening are inherent qualities that women are. It's in the DNA. So how do you go into an organization, big or small, right, and set the tone for the culture so men respect the value that women bring to the conversation, and women understand the value that men bring to the conversation, so that mashup serves the organization in a material way? How do you set that culture of respect, or I'm not even sure the words respect? You guys tell me what I'm trying to say. How do you establish that in the business so you have that balance, so you leverage the strength of the diverse population, male and female?
Can I answer that?
Please.
So I do work with countries in Africa. And one of the things that I found is that there's a very, very big move right now for women, the rights of women. So usually when we're going into an organization, the things that we consider even in going in is to bring a balance within. There's not just and I believe this to be true in countries, in companies here in the U.S. as well. There's not just a need for women to be recognized equally in the workplace as men in other countries. It's also here in the U.S. where it is definitely something that needs to be addressed and taken care of. So one of the things that I do is I go in creating this culture of values, because I believe that when we come to the understanding that you are my equal, and it doesn't matter if you're male or female, then that lays the foundation for the progression of the organization as a whole going forward. Another thing that I have noticed, however, is that women have to be secure enough to stand up and say, look, I know what I'm talking about. I believe that we can make this happen if we go forward in this way, and not be afraid to stand out. Because what I've noticed is, and I've done trainings where I've had some, very influential African males in audience. Some of them have even been high-ranking officials in the military. And they tend to want to take control of a training that I'm doing. And, one of the things that I've learned to do with them is like, okay, well, this is my training, but if you think you can do it better than me, then why don't you just come up here to the front of the room? But see, I'm bold enough to do that. I feel like we as women have to be bold enough to say, we have input too, and we can help to make a difference here as well. And it's not just for us to follow you, it is for us to walk alongside you. And I believe that that is even true in a family dynamic as well. So that's just my little 2 cents there.
I wholeheartedly support that notion, because I think it's the blab prior the theme was stand up to stand out. Mm-hmm. And I think that I didn't think that it would drift into this conversation, but of course it is in an intentional way, the notion of when you have a great idea, whether you're a man or a woman, if you don't stand up for that idea, you will not stand out and rise on the tide of those ideas. And it takes commitment, right? And it takes the work that we have to do on ourselves often to feel that we can stand up for those ideas. So I honor people that work with women to help them stand up, because we know, based on the statistics we shared early in this blab, that women have incredible value to offer to the conversation, and in some instances, much more than men do in certain situations. So we do need a mashup of both genders for families and businesses and enterprises to accomplish more. You said this notion of culture of values. I like the phrase culture of values, because when I think culture in 2015 and in the future, I think of diversity, not just men, women, but a mashup of nations, if you will, because I've been reading over decades how diversity fuels creativity and innovation. And I'm a firm believer that in the future, because of the ubiquitous nature of technology and how technology does create chaos in the world, because it disrupts so many companies. And when companies get disrupted, people are unemployed. And when companies are threatened with disruption, people get nervous. And that chaos is daunting. And if we're going to thrive as businesses and business professionals in that world, then we need to be innovative, creative, and resilient. And if I can be in a group of women and men from nations from all over the planet, I will get a diverse set of ideas that will fuel my ideas to be even more creative. And thus I'm a better contributor to the end goal of sustainability for that business that I'm a part of. So culture of values, I mean, that's a blab in itself. I like that. How do you build a culture of values? And what does that mean to different people?
You know how you build it? It starts from the head down, and it starts from the top down, bottom up. And that's definitely how I approach it. If I'm going to go into an organization and work with an organization, the head person has to be involved and committed to the change. And we go all the way down to even the janitor needs to be afforded the opportunity to grow in the capacity of what we're doing. Because if they're not, then you don't have equality throughout. And that's what I'm always trying to build, a culture of character based on values, and then the culture of equality for all. Because what I've learned is, every single person that's in an organization can contribute to its growth if we are willing to take the step back and listen to what is being said. And that is very, very key. I went into organizations where the employees had solutions to the problems in which they were bringing us in for. I always say, if you fail to go within, you will go without. And it's going to cost you more when you go without, because the answers they're within us, but they're also within your organization, within your country, within the continent. Their answers are there. And so you have to be willing to take a step back and listen to what's being said. I tell employers all the time, if you are too busy to listen to your employees and the ideas that they're trying to bring forth, one of the things that you can do is set up a suggestion box and let them go and dump their suggestions into that box. And then you, once a week, go and look at them. Because I'm telling you, you're going to save yourself a lot of money if you listen to your employees that are in, because they have the answers for whatever is ailing your company, they have the answers for it.
There's I sold a lot of technology to big finance and insurance companies in the last century, and very expensive, very big, enterprise-wide stuff. I was at Xerox Corporation doing that, not at IBM, but IBM early in the last century coined a term they called joint application development. And they started joint application development because if they had $10 million of a computer that they wanted to sell, and the CEO and the CFO bought off on it and said, absolutely, we're going to do this. And then they installed this $10 million computer. And, it might be $10 million for the computer and then $10 million to get the thing installed. So $20 million invested by the CFO and the CEO and the board approval. And then when they turned it on a year later, the employees in the trenches rejected it. Said, this is stupid. Why would we can do it faster. So IBM said, wow, this is crazy. We're losing money. We're making unhappy customers. They came up with JAD, Joint Application Development. So when they got the approval of the CFO and the CEO and the board for a $10 million piece of hardware and $10 million to implement it, they said, here's the implementation plan. We're going to go to the trenches. And if it was an accounting product that was supposed to reduce days sales outstanding, which means that, we get $1 million today and it takes 10 days to get into our accounts. If we can shorten that by 3 days, that's a big deal. Mm-hmm. They'd go to the employees, and at first it was to bring the employees on board to make them feel like part of the solution as opposed to stepchildren. Right. But they discovered in the process that the employees had been doing this work, and they could put the workflow in place to this computer and the software that was going to run it in such a way that the employees' ideas were material to the success not only of the implementation, but of the reduction in day sales outstanding, because they had been doing the work. Wow. So I'm saying this notion of JAD was an outgrowth of just trying to make money, but IBM discovered that it was the recipe for making meaning. And it sounds exactly what you're saying is the same, that people that ignore the people in the trenches, the people that they're paying the least, sometimes know the most about what the customer wants. The people that are paid the least sometimes know the most about the hard work that has to be done. And that if you change this one thing, if you gave me a better, harder lead in my pencil, I wouldn't have to run to the pencil sharpener all the time. And that would save me, 30 minutes a day. Whatever the process improvement is, if you don't ask the people, but that's a different blab.
Yeah. Well, Art, if I can comment.
Yes, please.
The one thing, like that whole idea, the being inclusive, and also women and men working together in leadership. I think it's important that we do realize that we don't have the we don't corner all the great ideas for our organizations. And I think that's where women also have a greater ability, because we tend to be more inclusive. I don't know if the IBM CEO and CFO are men or women. But
now it's a woman. Now it's a woman. Yeah. Huh? Now she's a woman.
Now, but $20 million later.
Say again?
$20 million later, it's a woman.
Yeah, many decades later, she's a woman. Yeah.
Right, right. And in my office, and my office is really small, so I'm not talking like I own this huge multi-million-dollar company, which I will one day. But today's, well, I do today. It's just not materialized yet. The key is when people come to me, I require that they have solutions that they're bringing. When we have a situation, they need to bring the solution to me. There has to be a leader. There has to be a final authority to make decisions, because otherwise you have chaos and you have division and you have, well, my idea is better than hers and his idea is better than mine. And we actually had a situation this week where someone created a situation of liability for my company because they spun off in a direction, did not consult with me. And being that I'm the experienced member of the company, would have been a smart move. It was a guy, by the way, that did this. But somebody has to have the final authority, and the team has to recognize the leader as the final authority. And as a woman, I think we have to work a little harder, because it's more challenging for us to set the boundaries that that's a great idea, but I'm in charge. That I'm listening, I hear what you're saying. This is the direction we're going to go because of these other factors that I'm aware of. But you still have to be open to input, but people have to accept your leadership as the leadership. That's in a marriage too. And in my marriage, my husband and I are, equal partners. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, what he says goes. Now in the business, at the end of the day, what I say goes. And but because somebody has to be responsible, somebody has to make the final decision and lead the train, or all of the cars get unhooked, or you get 3 cars here and 5 cars there, and you're not going anywhere. So, but I think there's a way that we can do it where we're establishing our authority, but we're also being compassionate, acknowledging somebody else's idea, no matter how weird or crazy it can be. And sometimes that's all people need is, that's a great idea. I don't know that that's something we can implement today, right now, within this frame and context, but let's table that and we'll revisit it another time. And that way people are feeling included, because a lot of times, especially the folks in the trenches, just need to know that they're included, that their ideas are important and being listened to. Revel, you look like you're going to say something.
Yeah, I want to throw this in that Prince of Peace said. The final authority should be an idea that is good for all. The idea should be the leader. The idea is the truth, and both parties have to work towards the idea. What do you say about that?
I love that.
I like that too. I think
love that.
Yeah, I think we all at Prince of Peace, muy bueno. That's a good idea.
That's powerful. It's true.
He was on my blog the other day. That guy's very, very insightful. I mean, he's like awesome. He really is.
I like that. Yeah. I was just, as I take notes during the blab, I mean, there's a couple of key words that come out of this conversation: respect, empathy, negotiation, culture of values, inclusive, character and equality. That's a mashup of some really important ideas that go to, I think they all point toward building a culture of value. Because when you have respect and empathy and you are able to negotiate from a position of character, when you seek equality and you build teams that everyone's equal and inclusive, that is what a culture of values is. I think that's amazing. So what I wanted to do now, because we're about 30 minutes in, and I wanted to give Revel and Anna and Sharita an opportunity to introduce yourselves to the audience, because you've been sharing such great ideas. And
thank you.
And Anna, why don't you go first?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was writing in the chat.
No, I want you to introduce yourself to the audience in the stream so they know who's sharing these wonderful ideas on this blab.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I'm Anna Scheller, and I am a sales trainer. I'm also a business owner, so the things that I teach I've actually used in my business. And I grew my business by 50% the first year using professional sales training. And that's what I teach other people. My brand is Black Belt Selling, because I'm also a martial arts instructor. And so I take the mindset that helped me become a black belt and I apply it to sales because I want to see other people succeed. It's not something that is a special trait that belongs just to special people. It's something that everybody can do with training, with coaching, and with discipline. And so I have a radio show now called Black Belt Selling Radio on Blog Talk Radio, and I'm about to launch another radio show on the Amazing Women of Power. I'm going to be doing that actually starting next week. So that's going to be starting up. I'm getting ready to launch a Kindle book, a CD series. So I'm not trying to promote. You just asked what I do. That's what I do.
You're busy. That's wonderful, and thanks for sharing. We have many kindred spirits. I mean, Revel is also a martial arts trainer. I'm a sales trainer.
Sweet.
So yeah, and I don't call it sales anymore. I call it collaborate to co-create.
Oh,
and
wonderful!
So
I love it.
We'll have to talk about that. Sharita,
Yes.
Introduce yourself to our audience and everybody on replay so they know who's sharing these wonderful ideas.
Okay, so I am Sharita Douglas. I am the president and CEO of Sharita Douglas Consulting. I specialize in transformational leadership. And I'm doing this actually right now. I just started a program where I'm doing it even with youth, ages 14 to 19. But mostly what I do is I work with organizations that have issues with productivity, lack of respect, diversity issues. And so I go in and implement processes. I believe that processes are what bring transformation in an organization. It's not an event. A 3-day seminar is not going to bring change to your organization. You really have to put the work in for it. I'm usually with an organization for about a year from the time that I begin with them. And basically I tell them the processes that implement values to create cultures of character, because that's extremely important.
That's fantastic. I'm lucky to be surrounded by such powerful women on this lab today with this great subject. So thank you guys. Revel, you want to? And Anna, did you say you have to pop out? If I wanted to say goodbye, if you're on your way out,
I do.
Thank you so much. We'll hope to see you again.
Nice to meet you, Sharita. Revel, it's always a pleasure to see you, my dear.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad you made it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye for now. So, Revel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a natural health practitioner and educator, been doing it for about 3 decades now. Mostly I'm focused right now on empowering women, self-confidence, Taekwondo. Okay, that's my first style was Taekwondo. And self-protection. And I'm an international speaker working with women through that vein. But right now I'm just focused on creating a whole program around various things. Like I do holistic health, and it's not just one thing or the other like some people will do. You know, they focus on one thing. For me, it's overall, it's mental, emotional, and physical. So I'm working on a program right now around food and helping women eliminate excess fat, excess weight through food, not through products, not through having to force themselves to exercise 8 hours a day, but just through a healthy food program, nutrient-rich food program. So I'm going to get off and start working on my mind map for that and how that's going to work. And then I'm also working with the mental and emotional. So I'm going to do a blab and a whole program around self-esteem, and also another one on success principles.
Wow, you're busy.
Well, I'm just getting, starting now, beginning now to do what I want to do more of in the new year.
Fantastic. That's wonderful. And I'm a devotee to the notion that food is the body's chemical delivery system. So what I put in is what I become. So I completely endorse your model. Less drugs and more food, more good stuff.
Absolutely.
So back to this, do women make better leaders than men? There's the continuation of this theme that is another statistic. And this one's a little troubling, and I know that you guys have ideas. I hope you do, because I'm not sure how to fix this one. I know how to fix it, but I'm not sure the process. Women and men both desire to advance, but few women aspire to the C-suite. That's the tagline, and that's entry-level and mid-level employees who agree or completely agree with the following statements. I have a desire to advance to the next level in my organization. 69% of women, 74% of men. If anything were possible, I would choose to advance to the C-level management. 18% of women, 36% of men. So twice as many men are aspiring to the C-suite as women are. How do we change that? And this is McKinsey and Company study. This is dated. It was 2012, but it's still current history. Anybody that was aspiring 4 years ago was just in the succession plan today, perhaps. How do we change those numbers?
I think self-esteem is one of the biggest issues.
Empowerment, exactly. You're right.
Yeah. I think women are afraid, and I don't know what of, but I think they need to find out what it is, because every time I've worked with somebody, it almost always comes down to fear. Fear, not being worthy, not being, what's the other word? There's worthy and there's deserving. They don't feel worthy, they don't deserve it. Somebody somewhere has told them that, they've embraced it, and they need to let go of that and start moving up, allowing themselves. Is
that the same challenge that's happening with women make great engineers, but few women in the past were going into the engineering and programming field, and now with people motivating them, they are going and becoming very good at it. But then when you get to Silicon Valley, there's still a dearth of women in the positions that are available. So, it's so. Well,
I think it goes back quite a ways to, we were not supposed to be, and this goes back even both of your times for me. We were not supposed to be good at math, because if you were good at math, you got put down because boys were supposed to be, and if you outshone a boy. How it is now, I mean, I've gone to chamber meetings, and it's still an old boys club, and very few women can get into it and get to that point where they're respected. And I think with technology, I think it's still the same way. Sharita?
I feel like, I think sometimes I must have some male hormones in me somewhere or something, because I'm curious. Yeah. How I feel about things is, if I can't be the leader where I need to be the leader, I'm going to go and be a leader somewhere else. And if that means that I have to start my own organization in order to be the leader, that's what I'm going to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because
yes.
I see. Definitely, it is definitely gives a lot to be said about the fact that women are not empowered enough to know that they're capable of taking these positions. I do believe that they're definitely equipped, but are they empowered?
Here's a question from the stream from Christopher. Christopher says, "This is a question for the whole group. What one? Hey, Mirza, welcome. Here's a question for the group. This is for the whole group. What one word sums up the ideal quality for leadership?"
Influence.
Sharita says influence.
I say collaboration.
I don't know if I
combination.
In one word.
Yeah, I mean, one word is
one word's
a leader's got to be more than one word. I mean, I'm somewhere between.
I feel like maybe for me the word would be pious. I don't know why pious, but pious is the word that would give me full leadership in every aspect of person's abilities. I don't know.
Yeah, I would go with empathetic. I would want them to know what's going on in all areas of the business and have that sense of connectedness and understanding to the missions that they're leading. So that's a good question. But then further in the stream, Christopher put something else. Let me see if I can get back to it. This is an interesting concept. Christopher says the internet has leveled the playing field.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We all agree?
And a preacher. Oh, yeah. And a preacher's kid says humble, and Carla says integrity. But I agree that, because people are finding out how intelligent women are through what they're putting on, especially on Blab and Periscope and probably Meerkat. I don't look at Meerkat. Mm-hmm. But, you see people like Karen Graves. You see people like Eileen. You see people like Jenny, and, all these other women who are so powerful in themselves. You see Sharita, and a lot of women are taking over Blab.
Well, if we as a society are we spent 2 centuries moving away from our agrarian roots, right? And the industrial age, the information age, led us into very interesting visions of prosperity. And now we envision prosperity as less about the material things that we have and more about the spiritual things that we have. And I think that's made space for men and women both to rise on the merit of who they are, as opposed to some ordering that was born out of women are shackled to the stove at home and men go to work. That was born out of the agrarian industrial information age societies that we lived in. I think we've cast that aside for the most part. And now we are approaching life as equals. And there's work to be done to help those women that have not embraced their power to do that. Because this chart that I'm looking at that says, only 18% of women have a desire to go to the C-suite, and whereas 36% of men do. And what just occurred to me is maybe a truism. Men don't have babies, right? We are not. And so I'm just, as a man, I'm throwing it out there. Is that one of the reasons that women say, I don't have the time. I've got to do this and be a great leader and raise my family. Although, is it, who's at Yahoo that was at Facebook that now is a leader and she has young children? She seems to be doing fine. So
she can afford to have somebody take care of them. But also, what I was thinking while you were talking, Art, is women have had to go to work. Whereas previously in my mom's day, they didn't. My mom didn't work until my dad died. Other than that, she was at home with the kids, with us. But after that, once they start working, and then they start realizing that there's more to life. There's more to just, than being a mom. Not saying just being a mom. To being a mom, there's more to life, and there's more opportunity, and there's more fun. Being out in the workplace and gaining some responsibility. Why they stop at sea level?
I think a preacher's kid says, I think the idea is ceasing to be a barrier in the modern day. And I think preacher's kid, I wasn't saying that being the childbearing sex is a barrier. I just think that it's a responsibility for some women that they embrace. So, it's a huge responsibility for society in general, being the mom and bearing children. So if that short circuits the ascendancy to the C-suite, I'm okay with that because that's a choice. But if Susan Sandberg, who now is the CEO and has young children at Yahoo, found a way to get it done, and sure, she probably makes $3 million a year, so she can afford, an au pair to take care of her children, and so she can have her children and lead a large enterprise too. But my question was really born out of I think of my brain works on the notion of sociology, anthropology, biology, neurology, and if I think about the biology of this question, the closest I have come to birthing a child is when my first child was born and I was walking behind my wife and she had a contraction and I felt my son push through her back. That's the closest I come to that experience, right? That's it. And my responsibility was to bring money home. That's not something that's uniquely male, bringing money home. But the 9 months and then the 9 more months, perhaps 18 months that you take to dedicate to yourself, if not 3 years, to rearing that child. What does that do to the trajectory of a woman? I guess that's kind of how I'm trying to ask the question.
I think the truth is that more women aspire to be in the sea level than is spoken about, and I'll tell you why I say that. Because we tend to suppress our truth, and we want to stand out, and we want to be in that leadership position, but we will suppress our truth. And if you think about how society is, it's the man is out in front, and so a lot of women, even going into the workplace, will allow that because they are saying, well, it's the way it is and how it's always been. But what I'm beginning to see is that this is changing, and that we're more willing now to stand in our truth. And our truth is that we are more than capable of running these organizations and working in these senior level positions. And so we're slowly, and what I believe is it takes more role models stepping out and saying, you can do this, because I am the example that you can do it, and that will lead the way for many more women to have confidence in themselves and break that barrier of the man needs to be out in front.
Interesting.
That's amazing, and I think that definitely plays a big part. I also think there's this very, very, very barbaric, egoistic thing that men have within to be top, and that's not just being on top of a corporation, just being on top. Period.
The dominating psyche.
Men. Right, and I think that we've been pinned against each other much more than women have in a way, because women are nurturing. So when men get pinned against each other, they want to win. But why do they want to win? Because they want to get women at the same time. And it's like this very, I think that it goes way, way back, way back when it comes to the competition. I think the men want to compete against each other more than women do in a way. And women are obviously nurturing and being in a position, they're both very, very important position, CEO positions, as well as the front line. Without the front line, you don't have anything. Without the CEO, you don't have actual direction. And without somebody taking direction, you still have nothing. You're still done. The company doesn't work without the front line. So that is the nurturing aspect of a woman, that she wants to stay in that position in a way to nurture the front line, to nurture what's coming in. And for a man to want to be on top just because he wants to win. And it's a very deep embedded emotion that we both have. That's just, I guess.
I think, Mirza, I think that the notion of women are from Venus and men are from Mars, is right. The anthropology and sociology and the biology for all intents, because it was about procreation. I would fight you to get the attention of her so I could procreate and my line would continue. And that is our wiring. Right. It exists in the C-suite, right? But the context of this blab is, I asked the question kind of rhetorically, do women make better leaders than men? Because the statistics bear out the truth that women do make better leaders than men, because they are more nurturing, more listening. So I'd like your perspective on that premise, that if the statistics suggest that women are performing better in the C-suite as leaders than men, I mean, marginally, but still 51% for a man and 55% for a woman is a material difference in success quotient for their leadership ability. If that's true, I think the question, my theme should be, how do we help more women get into that position so they can lead better companies and lead better nation states to create a better world?
It's more of giving them inspiration to actually want to do it. It is
I'm
self,
Mirza, I'm sorry. I have to stop because Sharita and I are laughing because what Preacher Kid says. Preacher, that's a good blab, Preacher's Kid. I want to be on that blab. You'll get a lot of attendance just with that title. Oh my gosh. So Mirza, I'm sorry. Go back how you were saying.
Forget about it. I think I forgot. Yeah.
You know what? I think what I would say to this is that, okay, so here we have two men sitting in the seat, and you know we are women as well. Who nurtured you? Who gave you the capacity to be as strong as you are? It was probably 9 times out of 10 your mom.
Yep.
Case closed.
Yep. Yeah.
Can I drop the mic here? I mean, like, what do they say? They say, drop the mic, you know? No, I'm just kidding.
No, you're not.
Really aren't, but
I think this blab is done.
But you're saying that
Christopher has a good point.
Nurture part of it is what gives men what they are. Is that what it is? Like if a mother, you know, if a mother Earth, mother period, you know, an extension of Mother Earth, an extension of all of natural biology. If mother is the one that nurtures you, she's the one who gives you the ability to be more of a man.
Yeah.
Or, you know, more of a man, if you want to say.
Christopher puts in the stream, if a woman today is afraid of being called the B word by some office Neanderthal, then she will either have to leave that company in fear or put that knuckle dragger in his place if she wants to get to the C-suite.
Hey, I'm one of those ones who put them in their place. I really am. I'm one of those ones who put them in their place.
I think, I mean, and you know, that goes to corporate culture. If there's a culture where there's a knuckle dragger, a Neanderthal that's able to do that, I say leave the company and find a company that is going to be embraceable, that doesn't support that kind of Neanderthal behavior to start with, because in order to be in that kind of, to have that kind of temperament and that kind of personality in a company, that is antithetical to building a culture of values. So
I wouldn't run away from it, Art, because
I understand
the reason why I say I wouldn't run away from it and go to another company, I would handle it, because if you run away from it, there's a woman in the background who's going to have to pick that up where you left it off. And so if everyone keeps running, hey, he's just going to keep being a tyrant. No, let's just nip this in the bud right here.
So it's a question.
Yeah, and everywhere you go, you're going to find that until you handle it.
So I don't think I was saying run from it as much as I was suggesting that if you don't handle it in a way that it changes the culture and use that as a teaching moment for the leadership and the culture, if the leadership refutes and says, no, I can't change that, then you leave the company, because you're not in an environment you should try to ascend to, because the culture is screwed up.
Right.
But I'm not suggesting run from it. I'm suggesting addressing it is not handling, if I'm the perpetrator, it's not handling me and putting me in my place as much as it is putting me in my place and then going to the leadership and say, look, if this is the kind of culture that you're going to have, and my great talent does not belong in this, if you want my talent, then we've got to fix this culture. And so it becomes a teaching moment for the leadership that either wants to change or wants to stay the same.
I agree.
Thank you, Christopher, for that Neanderthal knuckle dragging caricature, which is a good one, because it does exist in the landscape in general. And when you're trying to build a culture of values, I think it goes to, doing your due diligence on the new hire to make sure that they fit with the culture of values that you're trying to build, which doesn't include knuckle dragging Neanderthals, whether they're male or female. This is, so Sharita, culture of values, Blab, when are you doing it?
I did one.
I've got to listen to a replay. Oh my gosh.
I did one as an interview with a partner of mine from Zimbabwe. She's currently in Botswana. She's a diplomat. We did one together. But you know what? I need to do one just straight on culture and value.
You need to do one that talks about all the discrete pieces: respect, empathy, character, equality, inclusiveness. There's a bunch to talk about there.
It is. It's a lot. So, okay. So within the week.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Okay, great.
I'll be there. I've doubled up on blabs today. I did the last one on stand up to stand out, and this is a great blab, and I think it really helps me with this notion of stand up to stand out, because it points me toward a responsibility I have to do what little I might be able to in the process of providing access to role models and processes to help people, and maybe women specifically, get on board with taking ownership for their ideas and to stand up.
I love the idea to stand up and stand out. I mean, I think that more of us need to do that to break up the monopoly, and in doing so, it allows for a lot of other people to have a path in which to follow in.
And I think there's a blab. We can do this blab together, Sharita. And I think this is the idea that there is. Standing up is a neat idea, but taking responsibility for your ideas, committing to take responsibility for your ideas, and then doing the work to carry you and your ideas forward. That's the magic. That's where the magic happens, because just standing up, that's easy, right? So I stood up. No, but you've got to carry that idea forward to rise on the tide of that idea. And that's hard work. It's not just hard work. There's a codified process that people can use to do that. And I think that's a blab that is not about stand up to stand out is kind of ethereal. Codifying the process to stand out is the mechanics of how it happens. That's probably important to blab about.
Gonna run.
I do that. Bye, Revel.
Bye, Revel.
Nice to meet everybody.
Nice seeing you. So Mirza, where are you and what do you do?
I'm in New York.
I know he's a photographer. Oh my goodness. Beautiful pictures, Mirza. I saw on Twitter.
Thank you.
You have to follow me back so that I can, because your pictures are absolutely gorgeous. I'm like, wow, this guy can photograph.
I think I'm already.
Yeah.
I've seen your stuff. Oh my gosh, look at that. Wow.
It's absolutely gorgeous.
So are you in Manhattan or upstate? Where are you?
Long Island.
Long Island.
I've been living in Long Island since '95. Well, I lived in Queens for a little while, but I had decided to move back to Long Island because I have an 8-year-old son, and he's out here. He's in school, and so
nice. Long Island's nice. I mean, Long Island. There are spots in Long Island. There's a Long Beach in Long Island that got hit by Sandy when I was back there, and there's a Long Beach in California. They're different, but they're similar. Right. And then you go further out on the island, and there, you go out to the Hamptons, and it looks like California. It looks like Santa Barbara. It's amazing.
If you go out to Montauk and Montauk Point, that whole. But there's a Long Beach everywhere you go. There's Long Beaches in the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, right. I guess it's a great name for a beach, right? Long Beach. But Montauk is when I was back there. I was in Jersey, and then I was in Rego Park for a little while. And
I like Rego Park.
Is that right? Oh man, if you like Russian food, you're in business, right? Mirza, there you go. And
I was on the border of Rego Park and Forest Hills, literally.
There's a guy, Walter, who's an artist, and he's from Queens. And
I met him.
And Walter teases me all the time. I asked him one day about there's a pizza parlor. I think it's not Dave's. It's in Forest Hills. It's on a street that goes under the trestle. And it has the best white ricotta cheese pizza on the planet. And I would fly from Tucson, Arizona, where I'm at, to Rego Park just for that pie.
Or you haven't been to the pizzeria by my house.
Well, pizzerias in New York. Come on, I mean, there's too many to choose from. They're all good. They're all good. But Montauk is one of my thing on Montauk was to go surf casting out in Montauk in the springtime, fishing, which would be. We're opening the seat for Dr. Vibe, who I imagine has a lot to say on this topic. Dr. Vibe, I know you're coming. All I see is a blank. Are you there, Dr. Vibe? Art calling Dr. Vibe. Art calling Dr. Vibe. So, are you doing blabs on photography and visual?
I did one. I haven't really decided what I want to do to blab about, because I feel like blab is such a wide network that I would want to connect on a deeper level than just my photography. I can discuss photography in every single blab.
Well, we could blab together, and we could start with the cave paintings in Chauvet, France, as visual storytelling, and then move forward from there. I followed you. Let me know if that's interesting to you.
What I wanted to start was I actually tried it was a drum circle to see if anybody would want to play drums with me, to see how it worked. And it didn't work out too well, but I want to try it from my computer because I tried it from my phone. But I just want to get on Blab. There it is. Yeah.
Hey.
When you're ready, I'm ready. I'm there for you.
I tried it before. It didn't work because it was blocking out. There's an algorithm that kind of blocks out another person.
So too much going. So you couldn't get a drum circle going on. Yeah.
Right. But I'm going to try it from my computer and see how it works.
Yeah, you might have to take the drum circle to a peer.in or something else, but wherever you take it, I think it would be interesting. Say, Doc.
Yeah. Let me
I've been to Venice Beach to the drum circles in the morning.
Oh yeah. I used to live on Venice Beach. Oh my gosh. Crazy drum circles on Venice Beach.
And during the sunset, they have drum circles, which is pretty amazing. It's the most amazing sunset that I've never been. I've never been on the coast of, France or whatever it is where the sunset's really. But Santa Monica was San Diego was the best sunset I've ever seen.
You got the best sunset and you got the best climate in America in San Diego, so you can't go wrong with that. So Dr. Vibe, welcome. Dr. Vibe.
Hi, Dr.
So I made this title, Dr. Vibe, knowing that if I made this title that you eventually would show up to have a comment on it. So now you're here.
Well, hey, don't count on me. I do have a life. I don't sit my life on
That's
blab,
great.
so
That's
I before going any further, I fully want people to make sure that they need to make sure they have a life outside of.
That's a good thing. Life after blab. And I have to tell you that about 3 weeks ago, I don't know if I coined the term, but I used this term that I was blab drunk. I had been blab hopping. I was just blabbing for blab's sake, and I was like, "Whoa, wait a second! You need an intervention." So I had an intervention with myself. I think it was successful. Now I blab with purpose as opposed to blab for the blab high.
Well, you know what I did a Periscope a few weeks ago, and one of the things I do periodically is have a reckoning day.
I like that.
And what I do is I just turn everything off and I sit in my couch and I make sure I just write down some things that are going right, not going right, and I make sure that the person that sat in the couch is not the same person that leaves.
I like that. A reckoning day.
Love that.
That's a beautiful. You need a blab. You can help a lot of people on blab with that reckoning day. That's like having an intervention with the blab malicious crowd here. My dog is calling me, guys. I'm gonna hop off for a second. I'll be right back. Sorry.
So, Dr. Vibe, tell me what you think about the topic. Do women make better leaders than men?
I think that leadership depends on the environment. There's sometimes that a lady will make a better leader. I think sometimes a man will make a better leader. I think the real good time is when they work together and win together.
Right.
So that's, one thing I will also say is leadership is very lonely at times. So people have to realize that a lot of times you will look at a leader and many people will say, oh, I wish I had that position. Unfortunately, they don't realize what that person has gone through or is going through to be a leader. I think that I don't know who this is. Am I the social commentator, Dr. Vibe? I don't know. I'm just a guy, but I'll just go on with what's going on. This gentleman on the side, I don't know. But no, I think it depends on the situation. I have learned a lot from ladies in leadership. I've learned a lot from men in leadership. I believe it just depends on the situation in regards to the environment. Ladies, and I'm just saying this generally, I'm not saying it's on every case, bring certain attributes of leadership to situations, and men bring certain, generally, attributes to situations. So it all depends on the environment. But ideally, what you want is working together and winning together. That's what you want.
I think, Dr. Vibe, I'm gonna take the other side of the conversation on leadership is lonely. I think that there have been eras when leadership was lonely. Charlemagne, Genghis Khan, but even they had teams of people that they consulted before they made a decision. So
it is lonely. But it is only at times, though, because sometimes you have to make those tough. Sometimes, I'm not saying all the time.
Yeah,
there are sometimes you have to.
I think the smart leader surrounds himself with thoughtful, insightful cohort of leaders. It's like the old adage that as an executive, if I seek to hire people that are not quite as good as I am, I'm not serving myself or the organization. So I should be hiring people better and smarter than me. So when I call on their resources, I'm getting the best quality information and direction that I can get, which makes me more, I mean, and I think in 2015, I think we have an opportunity to shift. And I think that we are building leaders that understand that collaboration and co-creation of solutions is better than having the singular leader that calls all the shots. Collaboration is a powerful notion, and co-creation of solutions is an effective way to chart the course forward.
Yep. They say if you're
I know
the smartest person,
go ahead.
you're in the wrong room.
Say again?
Pardon me?
They say if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Right. That's right. And if you're trying to make all the decisions yourself, then you haven't surrounded yourself with smart people that understand the mechanics of collaboration and how that co-creation of ideas works to support the organization or the team.
Right. Well, you need that different input regardless where it's coming from. It's having the different ideas and having a different input from people who are within the same field that are able. Nobody's made the same way. Nobody processes things the same way. Nobody's raised the same way. Nobody has the same background. Nobody.
Diversity.
Everybody's different.
Diversity.
Down to every single cell in the biology, molecules, down to atoms. So not everybody is linked or programmed the same way. And having that diversity and having a different voice from every single angle is what you're supposed to, kind of sift through and find the truth within everybody. And the difference is bring differences together and find that one thing that everybody has in common, in a way, kind of get rid of everything and say, this is what we need to do as a company, or this is what we need to do, and this is what's good for everybody. So having those different opinions just kind of crystallizes everything that you're doing.
I want to go back to Dr. Vibe when you said that it's lonely some of the time. Is that some of the time driven by the importance of the question that's being pondered or the situation? It's situational, I guess, is what you're saying. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, it is situational. And I also think one of the things that, it's an old adage from my old science Bunsen burner in science, motion causes friction. So a leader has to realize that sometimes what you're going to do is going to rub the wrong way, and you're going to have to be alone.
Here,
Also, another thing when it comes to leadership is having the heart to admit sometimes that
here's Dr. Vibe. So here's the question for you, because I know you just hopped into the seat, and the theme is: do women make better leaders than men? Using the context that you just shared, motion causes friction. Who handles that friction better, men or women? In the context of leadership.
I can't give you an answer on that.
Dr. Vibe. Dr. Vibe.
He refuses.
Depends on the friction.
He absolutely refuses to give an answer. He wants
Dr.
to.
Vibe, come on. What kind of...
That's what Art. Sorry to disappoint you, but that's my answer because I've had different situations where men and women handle the same situation.
Dr. Vibe, let me restate the question. Based it,
and you're not going to answer. So you may be wasting my time. What I just said, I'm going to repeat again. I have been in the same situations where men and women have handled the situation good and bad. So sorry, people are people. I love my music, and there's a song called by Depeche Mode. People are people, but can you be sorry?
I think that in a past life or this current life, you have been a politician, because that was the most political answer that I've heard. That was.
Well, it may be political, but if you're going to say that, if you're going to put a stamp, men handle this situation better than women, I'm sorry. I've seen some situations, like I said, I've seen same situations. Men have been a mess.
If we made it personal and we said Joe versus Sally, I could understand that. But when we make it gender neutral, when we make it gender specific, not ascribing it to a person, but to the gender. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. There's friction. Who's going to handle it better?
You get nothing, Art. You get nothing.
I'm
Dr.
your
Vibe is
worst.
doing Muhammad Ali. He's bobbing and weaving.
No, I'm your worst. I'm your worst hop-in, because I'm gonna, like I said, people are individual, and there are a lot of ladies who have come up through leadership ranks that are handling things really good these days. So, and they're going to probably improve because more and more ladies are getting involved in the workplace and getting exposed to these situations.
So
I think that he doesn't.
There's
what's happening is he doesn't. What happens when you give an answer like that, you leave if you give a definite answer, you leave yourself open to judgment by some kind of entity. By giving the answer the way he's giving an answer, he's not leaving himself.
Are you saying, Mirza, that Dr. Vibe is not standing up for his ideas? What are you saying?
Oh,
that is my.
I think you're twisting my words.
and that's not a good leader.
I think
I'm just saying.
But the idea of not wanting to be judged in a situation, regardless of what the situation is, I think that he stands for the idea of both, of equality, of having to, depending on the situation, the ability for both of men and women to make the same mistakes, as well as make the same progress.
I think also in a way, it's an interesting question. Art, if you could ask this question to different generations, I think it'd be a very interesting what you get. I think it'd be interesting how millennials answer this question versus baby boomers. I think that'd be a very interesting question for both those generations, and even I think that'd be a very interesting question for different generations of people, because again, you have your millennials that think different about the workplace and leadership, totally different than a lot of baby boomers.
I think that boomers have largely left the workplace for all intents and purposes. The last people are hanging on by the claws of, because millennials and Generation X and Y are in the leadership roles today. So I think it would be interesting, but we already know the answer, right? Because culturally, boomers were raised in a different society with a different expectation, where the older boomers, mom was at home, the younger boomers, mom had just gone to work, but still largely was at home in their life. And so the expectation, and if mirroring is how we learn behaviors, then the older boomers we know what the answer is going to be. So here's another question for you, Dr. Vod. So
okay,
the statistics bear out that women are better leaders than men. I'm not going to give you space to refute that. That's just the statistics that we're using. And
based
and given that,
go on.
But there's another statistic that says women are less inclined to seek the C-suite than men. Women are less inclined to seek. So what would you put in place to encourage and then encourage women to embrace a process that would give them the tools and the confidence to aspire to the C-suite? What would you put in place?
I think in a situation like that, mentorship, and also very key is knowing the rules of the game. They got to, because when you move higher up in an organization, politics and knowing the rules of the game come more and more in part. I think, first of all, do they want to get there? I think starting from there, do they want to get there? So you're assuming that they want to get there. They want to get there, then they have to know the rules of the game, and they have to know that they're going to be paying a price.
This is an interesting question. When I was interviewing for Xerox in the last century, I got a book from the library, and the book was Business as a Game. And I was like, wow, this is great. So I was a perfect interview. I got it right out the box. But what I learned over my career, that business really, it's more about people than it was about the game. And if I could navigate the people relationships, I didn't have to play the game. So here's another question. And this, I want to pose this to Sharita because I know she's smiling. Just the concept, rules of the game is so Sharita, the notion of business as a game, rules of the game of business. Just your thoughts.
I absolutely do believe that it is a game.
Okay.
And I think if you think about the fact that women tend to read the instructions, 9 times out of 10 we know the rules of the game. But I do agree that it's a game.
Yeah, I mean, there's the politics. It's amazing, but. So
yeah, I just want to reinforce, Art, that I agree with you. To me, the foundation, and you've probably seen me on enough labs, my foundational key is relationships.
Yes.
Relationships are the key. And if you're going, actually, one of the things I would advise to that lady is, as you're going up that corporate ladder, don't forget where you came from.
Wow, that's powerful.
That is powerful because she needs to know that she has a foundation. Yeah, that is absolutely powerful. But I think the most advantageous thing a woman could do is, as she's climbing up, she needs to have people alongside of her. And when I say alongside, I mean parallel, because you don't want to get up there and be all by yourself. And if you're leading and you reach it to that level and you can't look around and see other people beside you, you didn't lead, you dictated, or you stepped on somebody, and that's not cool. So
wow.
You definitely need to be taking people with you, because then you have a support. Then you have a solid foundation because you built that. And you need to make sure that those people that you're taking with you, that they realize, look, we're not stomping on people on our way up here. We're going to do this by building what we have, which is relationships, as Dr. Vive says, and we're going to do it in an integrous way. That way, we are able to be the leaders, but also have the support that we need, because we're treating people as we know we would have wanted to be treated.
So here's a question. When you juxtapose, don't forget where you came from, with business as a game, you know, when I hear don't forget where you came from, I think be more you. when I tell somebody, don't forget where you came from, I'm really telling them, be more who you are. Be more where, all of you, I want all of you, and I want you to embrace all of you. But when I think of, this was last century when, I was in an enterprise class company playing the game, sometimes you have this sense of chameleon-like, and you outgrow that, but that's kind of what you get into, and it's hard to remember so there's a question in here. Don't forget where you come from, be more you, play the game. Does playing the game not detract from being who you are? And
I don't necessarily say play the game. I say know the game and know it well enough where you can change it.
Okay, so that's a different perspective. I think that's what I'm saying is that playing the game means that you're caught in the trap. Understanding the game means that you know where the alligators are in the swamp and you avoid them.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
But also realizing that if the game isn't being played in a way in which is beneficial to everyone, you're in the game. So change it. Change it as you go along. That way you're making a new game, creating a new game.
Well, I think there's the notion that when two people come together, the person that exerts the rules of the game is going to be in control of the game, and they're like this. So if you take the dominant position and look, this is how we're going to do this, then you're playing the game on your terms. Wow, I'm so blessed to have had this conversation. I mean, I've got the key words: respect, empathy, negotiation, inclusive, character, equality.
Can I give you some more words?
Well, and let me give you the big one that I got from Sharita, which is culture of values, right? And then and that's just one page. That was before you got here, Dr. Blab. And since you've got here, I've got motion causes friction. I like that one. Understanding the rules of the game, relationships matter, and be more you, or don't forget where you came from. A lot of good stuff, and support and foundation. A lot of good foundational stuff here. We can put the rebar down and pour the concrete, because that's a solid foundation for any individual to stand on as they try to rise up, if they understand those core tenets of getting lift. Okay, Dr. Blab, I'm sorry. Go.
I'm Dr. Vibe. I'm not on Blab.
Did I say Dr. Blab?
Said it twice.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm
Dr. Blab, Dr. Vibe, wait. This is my second Blab. I've done them back to back. I'm Blab drunk again. I'm so sorry.
All right. No, it's okay. No, see, I'm a podcaster by trade, so I listen. So you said it once, you said it again. So I say I gotta. I don't want that title. Dr. Vibe is my title.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm just playing with. No. We're having fun. And that's another thing too, is having fun. Because if you've got it. If you don't enjoy what you do, you're in trouble. And I think also too, and we're just talking general leadership, you have to have an exit strategy. And what I mean by that is that you have to have a line in the sand, in that if there's something that you can't tolerate, you've got to make it. You've got to be able to say, you know what? Am I going to go along with this? Can I tolerate it? Because a lot of times leaders will tolerate things they can't handle, and it starts affecting their emotions, their health, their thought process. So those times may come up where you're going to have to say, you know what? Do I still want to do this? Can I still do this? Do I want to still do this? I think that's another part of the process.
A lot of ego gets caught in that. I know a guy in DC who's a senior executive, C-level executive, was in the succession plan, right, to succeed the CEO. The board, everybody had blessed it. The board was liking it, and it was just not official. It was the process had gone its course, and then something changed, and this person was no longer still in pointing in the direction, but not solely the sole source for the secession. And that becomes, I mean, when at that level, it becomes ego. You know, if not me, then who, right? And that's executive coaching at a high level to fix that person, because when they might not take that role, or they might not get that role, but they're still making $1.4 million a year, right? And is it about the money, or is it about the ego? What is it about, the fact that you're not having the impact, or do you want to have the impact? So they often, what happens is they leave and go to a smaller company, or never is it a parallel company, and they get to be the CEO, and they maybe make the same amount of money. And what's it satisfy? Their desire to lead and their desire to be the leader, which is okay. I've never had to wrestle with that question. Was I going to be the CEO of a $10 billion company, or was I going to be the CEO of a $500 million company?
I think also another important thing for whether men or women want to get into leadership, you have to realize there's some people that are going to be around for a short time. There's going to be some people that are going to be around for a long time.
There's a metric that says that, as we talked about boomers leaving the workforce, that this new generations that are entering the workforce come with a different expectation. It's not the gold Rolex that they're looking for, because they're not going to be around for 20 years. They're mining the talent pool and the training of the company that just hired them, and their succession plan is to go somewhere else to continue to build their expertise and their talent. And they could very well have 5 or 6 jobs over the course of a career, and each one is ascending higher, because to each one they bring more value from their experience. They go from Yahoo to Google to Facebook to Apple, right? And that's their career trajectory, which is not what anyone would have planned for themselves in the past. 4 years, 3 years, 5 years, 4 years. That was never the desired scenario.
I mean, when you think about it, there was a time in which if you were at a job less than 5 years and you switched several jobs within a time frame, it looked like you were unstable. And the matter is, now that's exactly what employers are looking for. Yeah. They're looking for those who have went out and gained experience in different organizations and bring it to mind and put it to practice.
That's because they're seeking innovation, creativity, yes, and resilience. And you can't interview your way into having been at 3 really interesting companies. You have to have been there. Yes. And you could interview your way through, I was at this company for 10 years and I was mediocre, but I was there for 10 years. That might get you your next job, right? And now it's a whole different formula. So are there enough programs and people in place for women to model and mirror to ascend to the heights of the enterprise?
I think there are.
Go ahead.
I think that there are. I think that there's a foundation of women who are there. The thing is, women have to be mindful of who they would choose to model from, and what characteristics are you honing in on as far as that particular person that you're choosing to model from is concerned, because you have to be able to build your own foundation, but use other people's experiences to be able to do that. But I really do believe that there are enough foundational.
So is Sheryl Sandberg wrote the book Lean In, does that book Lean In, Women, Work, and the Will to Lead? She's the CEO of Yahoo. Does that serve all women?
Of course, I don't believe it serves all women. Absolutely not.
That's why how do you mean that?
Well, because number one, all women aren't mothers yet. And all women, so they don't have that family dynamic that they're trying to deal with. A lot of women are opting to have children later on in life, and so their career is coming first. And as such, you have this dynamic where there are a lot of women who are even, to a great degree, still single because they're career focused. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I just feel like they do need to be mindful of, when they're going to interject the family and marriage and things of that sort, because that's important as well.
So I just opened, I don't have the book, I'm looking on Amazon because I know that that's a example of the senior executive that's trying to be the model for women. And it was the title that I clicked on. Can I get back? Yeah. What I clicked on was this notion of, hold on.
Let me say this to you. What I do know is this, especially with millennials, because there's such a bright group of individuals. What I know is this: millennials are going to retire at a much earlier age than all other generations before. Just as plain and simple they are, because they're going to be able to have gotten in, got what they wanted, and said, okay, I'm out of here, and be done. And maybe, doing some entrepreneurial things on the side that are going to progress them, where they don't have to be sitting in an office behind a desk or trying to run an organization at that level. So I think that with that in mind, it's always that we have to realize that it's not now, nor will it ever be the same. We're constantly progressing towards higher things. And 10 years, could be really, honestly, in the very near future, retirement for most millennials.
I was going to go to this notion that's in the Lean In book about success and likability, that talks about an experiment that was done, that talks about decades of social science studies that have confirmed what the Howard and Heidi study exposed, which is that there are disparity in the way in business women and men are perceived. But I want to, instead of going there, I want to go to where you are, where you just said that millennials will retire earlier. And this is a different blab subject, but it's if this is ubiquitous today, and in 10 years, there's going to be 500 billion things connected on the internet, and Google has a driverless car that has been on the road and has 600,000 miles in California driving. You taking off, Dr. Vibe?
No, I'm just saying hello to Jenna Lee.
Hi, Jenna Lee. Hi, Jenna Lee.
Sorry, I just popped up. I was listening to what you were saying. I'm sorry to interrupt you because it's a great conversation. I just wanted to pick up on what Rita said. And you caught me. I've got to admit, guys, you caught me. I was listening. I was actually eating my dinner. Do you see? I'm calling you guys from London, and I was listening into what you said. And then Sharita said something that just really struck a nerve with me. One, to Carla, who made the comment about me and work. Yes, I was fired from every job I ever had. And I used that experience. There's a lot of things that taught me as a woman, is that I wasn't designed to fit in. And I know that's such a cliche, but the old working ethic of go to school, get a job, and die didn't apply. Did not apply to me whatsoever. And so I would go to work, and it's not like I was a bad employee, not at all. I'm a pretty cool employee. But there were things that the way that things were being done, the status quo, the fact that women weren't being taken seriously because I worked in the public service. I worked in antisocial behavior, and people weren't taking us seriously. And I would sort of rebel against that. And I would stand up and say, what the hell's going on? And I just clashed with people. And it made me actually question whether or not the problem was me. And yes, don't get me wrong, I would have been a pain in the neck at some time. But the truth is, it taught me that I didn't fit in and that I had a different gift and that I needed to find it and to harness that gift so that I could then use it to make money and also to inspire other people. And going back to you, Sharita, my daughter is 17 and she is one of those millennial babies that you're talking about. And she has an online business with eBay where she's just selling junk around our house. And she's got a little income coming in there. She got herself a Saturday job where what she did was, rather than in hairdressers, because she's quite young, rather than just sort of like getting paid, she watched what the stylists were doing and she learned how to do coloring, hair coloring. And so I bought her a head to practice on and she started coloring hair from home and charging $40 a time. And the young people now, especially, I don't know what it's like in America, but in the UK, the children that are growing up now have been left with nothing. When I was growing up, there was so much stuff for us to do. There was so much potential for us. But our young people now, especially in the Black community, have been left with nothing. And so they're having to either find inspiration. They need. My phone's buzzing there. Sorry about that, guys.
Someone's phone.
That was mine. Because like I said, I was just listening and I decided to just jump in. But the kids haven't been left with anything and they need strong role models to save them. You know, they really, really do. And so one of the reasons that's motivated me to start my own business and to hustle it, because to be honest, I didn't have a business background. I had no money. I started my business with £4.52, and that's probably about $8, $6 in your money, you know, and that's what I did. And my daughter had seen me build a business that feeds us and clothes us, and, you know, we're living by just being me and learning and having to think a different way, not that traditional go to work, get a job, die mentality. It doesn't work. And I'm proud as a mother to be able to pass that on to my child.
That's
so I'd
amazing.
like to, you know, more people just take the plunge, just try and find whatever it is that's going to work for you.
That's amazing, Jenna. Thanks for sharing. And can you tell us what do you do? And so,
okay, so once upon a time, I weighed 350 pounds.
What?
And 350 pounds, and I lost the weight, and I've kept it off for 10 years, over 10 years.
Wow.
And I'm a psychologist by trade. Now, it's a long, boring story, but I got myself qualified as a psychologist, and I've simply taken the principles of science that that my education gave me, plus my own experience, plus life and a couple of other things. And I've created a formula that other people can follow in my footsteps, working from the inside out. So there's no dieting and no exercise because I'm psychologically based. It's about changing your perception and how you feel about yourself. And in this day and age when people are crying out for good vibes, I'm doing well. Do you know what I mean?
Fantastic.
And it's something I created out of, like I said, nothing. I had no money. There were days when I was crying on the floor going, what the hell have I done? I've quit my job. What are we going to eat? You know, but it's possible. It is absolutely possible.
You know, Jenna, you're the case study for the blab that I had earlier, which was stand up for your ideas to stand out in the crowd. And when you embrace the ideas that you have and you take the responsibility and commit to standing up with those ideas, you can grow a business, but you've got to do the work. And it sounds like you've done all those things. So kudos to you. How wonderful.
Thank you. So I'm just listening.
Congratulations to you.
Sorry, darling?
I said congratulations to you. Wow, you inspire me. Thank you.
Jenna Lee, you are a perfect example of one of the things I always say, that where the mind goes, the
That's
person
very
follows.
true.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, so and that's a perfect example in regards to that. And also another thing I said, I put in the chat, if the dreams are big, the facts don't matter.
Yeah. Absolutely. The thing is, the one thing I would say to people that I really am a big advocate of is the fact that every single one of us have been gifted with a personality. And if you know how to just be yourself, it sounds so woo-woo, but if you just be yourself, you'll be amazed at how many people are willing to extend their hand to help you. Because I've met people and I've said to them, I've been honest, and I've said to them, I don't know how to do sales and marketing. I don't know how to do, I don't know how to do a business plan. I don't know how to do these things. And just being honest, and rather than trying to be like, well, I know everything, and just admitting my vulnerability has worked, has absolutely worked for me. And I connect with, I'm having conversations like this with you guys now, just by being myself. And I want more people. You don't have to be fake. You just be you.
And I think, Jenna, that's spot on, because we were talking earlier about, there's a term that says be more you. And if there's 7 billion people on the planet, there's only one Jenna Lee Anderson that's just like you. And if you be you, then you become unique in a planet of 7 billion people. And we all want to be unique, because that's how people find us, because of our uniqueness and because of the uniqueness of our ideas, and standing up for them the way you have. So, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to meet you for dinner tonight.
Should we be changing the title of this blab, or is it we're still on this?
Yeah, I think you're right. The title has changed. I'm not sure. I think we're back to standing up for your ideas to stand out, which is
well. And I think a few things that I wanted to share with the audience, whether it's live or replay, is you want to make sure, and this may get deep, but I think it's important, especially as a leader, is the way you talk to people the same way you talk to yourself.
That's a good one.
Absolutely. Totally love
right.
It.
And also, I'm also going to say that whether you're a leader, everyone's a leader in some way. That what is your core message? Whether it's an individual or if you're a leader, what is your core message? And is everything that you're doing aligned with your core message? Because most people are lazy. So if you do things that people aren't used to, they're going to go, whoa, what's going on here? So I think as a leader, that's very important in the fact that I'm going to give 5 quick points in regards to leadership here that I've got more, but I'm just going to give some real quick ones here. So just give me a second. I think the number one thing for leaders, you want to have not great relationships, you want to have epic relationships.
Epic.
Yeah. Also too, don't be a know-it-all. Don't let your ego get caught up with your intelligence. I think also too, don't be a hostage in your own business. You need to know what's going on. You need to know what's going on. And I'll just give one last one here. Do honorable things. Operate from a place of integrity. It's important that people trust what you say.
Absolutely. Dr. Vike, just to piggyback off the last one that you just said, I really honestly do believe this. Until we've learned to peel back the layers and know who we are as people and get to the heart of who we are, not what society has told us, not what we've been led to believe, not what's programmed, not what's conditioned from all areas of and aspects of ourselves, until we can get to a place where we're honest with self first, and we have a relationship, an epic relationship with ourselves. We will never, ever be able to be the leader that we can be to others, because guess what? You're lying to yourself. So you can't tell the truth to anyone else until you can break down those barriers with yourself and tell the truth to self. Then you become the leader that you came forth to be.
I appreciate that. And I'll just add too, some of ladies' best leadership learnings will not come in.
So true.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Some came on black. No, I'm just kidding.
And I'm going to give you a perfect example from my own journey. When I was younger and I had hair, one of the things I used to do was referee a lot of different sports. And if you look at it, a referee in any sort of sport, here's a perfect example, because I want to include our British contingent here that's on the blab. What you call football, what you call football, we call soccer. We all know how big a soccer field is.
Yeah.
How many referees are there?
Just the one.
Wow.
So that person is responsible for everybody that's on the field. He has to make judgment calls on a dime. And he also is responsible for the people on the bench. And somewhat, too, he has to be cognizant of the big crowds of people that are watching the game, too.
Mm.
It's all on you. That's not a person in a C-suite. That's a person that's on a soccer field. But many of the lessons that person goes through as a referee are no different than what they'll go through in the C-suite.
Well, that referee is the leader on the field for the adjudication of the game. So leadership is not all about the enterprise or founders and businesses. Parents are leaders, right? The big brother is the leader to the little brother, right? So we all have a responsibility to lead, and I think most people don't accept that responsibility, and they don't do the work to become better leaders. And I think,
all right, I'm just going to interrupt you politely there. We have the responsibility. I don't think it's responsibility. We have the decision whether we want to lead or not. I don't think it's a responsibility. It's a decision first, then the responsibility comes. Because we know people that have not taken the responsibility because they've chosen not to.
I think it goes in this. First, you have to commit to take the responsibility. Then you have to do the work to be a leader. And so
don't swear you said work. Don't say that word. That's a dirty word to a lot of people. Are. Don't be like that now.
You got to do the work, man. Right? You know that. You know, and Jenna Lee Anderson knows that because she did the work, right? Jenna, are you frozen, Jenna?
No, I shouldn't be.
Well, her screen is.
Your screen is frozen. I can hear you though.
Okay, well, I hope, to be fair, this is my first proper day on Blab, so I haven't got a clue what I'm doing.
Well, it's a good day on Blab. I'm glad you're here. And I'm following you, former fat chick psychologist, public speaker, weight loss expert, coach, diet and exercise are not enough. Set your mind for success, international and online. You are all that. Thanks for being here.
Am I still stuck?
There's a question in the stream that I wanted to see if we could answer for Christopher. Brian Taylor. Brian says, do you believe that men and women lead from the same leadership reservoir? I'm going to say no. I'm just going to give a simple no because it's.
No, I'm going to say no. Yeah, I'm going to say no too. Yeah, I think that men and women draw their influences from different sources. Men alone draw their leadership. I'm going
to make it more about. It's more about DNA and neurology and biology and anthropology and sociology and all of those things because nature brings women into the world in a unique persona from Venus, and then there's nature brings them into the world, and then nurture kind of molds them even more. So there is a lot of nurture in the nature of women that I think makes their reservoir markedly different than a man's.
I agree with that. I really do believe that men have this. I think leadership for a man is something that is expected. And for a woman, it's oftentimes something that we have to work towards more, just because of the dynamics of the societies that we live in. But it's definitely for a man something that is expected, and it lends even to the stroking of his own ego. Not that that's a bad thing, but I mean, let's just be real.
Well, it's realistic, and sometimes it's only for the ego, and not it's for the ego and the wallet, which is different than for the responsibility to lead, and for the people that you're leading, right? I mean, when you're not accountable or you're not connected in a material way to the people in the trenches that you're leading, are you a good leader? I think I'm speaking of this third millennia that we're marching in, that it takes a leader that does have a material connection to the masses, the 5 employees or the 50,000 employees. There's got to be a connection, because when you tell the narrative story of why we're going forward, of why we've got to accomplish this in the next quarter or next year, if you don't know the audience that you're speaking to and don't speak in a voice that reaches them, then you might make your target, but you're not gonna bring them along marching in lockstep with you. And that's what I think leaders should be seeking to do.
I think also a point that I share with individuals who are wanting to lead, I say to them, people are buying you before they're buying what you're saying.
That's influence. That's influence.
Influence.
They're buying you before whatever you're saying. If they don't like you, not to say they're going to buy into you, but you got a harder climb up that mountain.
You're talking about leadership now, right?
Oh yeah, and that I think. Well, not only I think anything these days, not just leadership, but especially.
I don't know if I understand, and I refer to the notion of know, like, and trust as a sentiment from the last century, because I think it's important. But I think when I think of leadership, I want a leader that I know, if my job is the success of the business, I want a leader that I can trust to make the numbers and meet the targets and build a great culture, more than I have to like that person. I'm not going to have coffee or play golf with the leader ever, probably, but I need to appreciate that they have the mission critical skill to keep my job a job.
They gotta they gotta like what you do. They gotta have confidence in you.
Well, that's like and confidence are different things. Like has this smacks of I gotta like you like I like you, Dr. Vibe, right? But I think you are amazing. Oh my gosh. Amazing.
I totally agree. I totally agree. See, Art, men and women can agree on the same thing, because I totally agree with you.
Yeah, who said they couldn't? So Sharita, expound on that a little bit, on that notion of know, like, and trust in leadership. What do you think?
I believe that it's absolutely true. The people are going to buy into the person before they buy into the vision.
But is the notion of like, define like for me then in that context?
I guess, but I think a preacher's kid, said a very short word. They're buying into that person. So I think, Art, it also too, it varies in regards to the size of the organization too, because obviously if you're in a place like IBM, which is huge, the concept of liking your leader, it may not have as heavy a weight as versus an organization of 10 people. Because again, the size of the organization may come into what you're saying. I do understand and agree somewhat to what you're saying. I think it also comes into maybe the size of the organization too does come of relevance, because it sounds like from what you shared, you have experience in working in some very large organizations. And I agree with what you're saying, that in our large organizations like this, they only care, can this guy keep my job?
Yeah.
Right? This guy, that's the bottom line. Whereas an organization that has 10 people, that may be a little bit of a different dynamic, but certainly when you're talking about C-level suite and organizations, you're looking, can this guy, especially these days, is this guy able to keep my job, or is this guy gonna
see? I mean, I had to go to the definition of like, and when I get to the adjective of a person or thing, it says having similar qualities or characteristics to another person or thing. And that's where I diverge from this notion of that being a requirement for leadership, because I'm going to lead you. You don't have to like me. I do Tai Chi. You ride a bicycle. We are not the same, right? I'm quasi-vegetarian. You like beef. We are not the same. But you will like the narrative of this cult that represents the culture that I've built to help this business navigate its way forward. You like that, but you might not embrace me as
It's all about character. It's about character.
Okay, that's different than like.
Yeah.
That's different. I like that. I like that.
I think one of the things I use with some individuals and some organizations, I come out, the first thing I say is, I'm not here for you to like me. I'm here to help you.
That's right. I don't care if I'm not.
If I help you,
That's
you're
right.
gonna
Are
like
you
me.
recanting your position, Dr. Vibe?
No, I said some. You've got to listen, Art. You've got to listen to me.
I'm just saying. I thought I was listening. I'm sorry.
You're gonna have to do some more blabs, Art, and listen some more. You're an esteemed leader.
I'm going to go back and listen to replay, Dr. Vibe. It's on recording, so come on.
I do it in real time, brother. We're going to have to work on you to do the real time.
Well, I think Sharita hit the nail on the head, because I would substitute the word like with the word character, which is an entirely different essence of meaning. And I think like is too warm and fuzzy. Character has gravitas, right?
Yeah.
That's a whole other discussion there, because if you think like is crazy, character
is more straightforward, because I'll read you the definition. Character says the mental and moral qualities distinctive in an individual. Period.
But like will get you in the door. Character is what keeps you there.
Ooh! Oh my gosh!
Yeah, like will get you in the door, but character is what's going to keep you there. So every day, all day, I'd rather be a person of character.
Yeah.
You know.
What do you stand for?
I'm sorry. What did you?
Sorry, just say.
Go ahead.
Can I just? Oh, who's speaking?
You are.
You.
Okay. Yeah, I have a question in regards to leadership and what you guys think about it, and what the people who are listening feel about this one, because I personally, from a psychological point of view, which is where I come from, that there's a lot of, it's almost like we've people who are trained to go to work, who are trained to earn money, are kind of dependent, kind of been trained to expect that their leaders will take care of them, and that they're going to be looked after, and that they almost give up their ability to make decisions for themselves, and they rely on leaders to inspire them, and they rely on leaders to do things for them, to sort of mother them in the workplace. And is that the job of a leader? Is it your job as a leader to mother your
Jenna, I think that's a great question, and I think the job of a leader is to set the tone for the organization, to tell the story that all the employees band around that story, that narrative. We are here to accomplish these things, and we do it for these reasons. And that's the internal culture that's built on the leader's sense of narrative. And then those employees who are closer to the customer than the leader then take that brand story and share it with the marketplace, whether they're salespeople or customer relationship people or somebody that never talks to the external world, but they talk to their neighbor over the fence. Then they are sharing that brand story. That's, I think, is the first and foremost role of the leaders, because leaders are responsible for getting the right cohort of people together to create the culture that people live in every day, which becomes the essence of what I see and buy into when I buy from Mercedes and not Audi, or when I buy from Chevrolet and not Ford, because there's something about the corporate culture that I buy into that I think is similar to me or my narrative. That's what I think.
Yeah, because I sometimes when I listen to people and I hear people talking about, especially at the moment in the UK, our government is cutting, and austerity is something that that's a big concern for a lot of people. And there's this sense of helplessness where people assume that they're supposed to, what should we do? Why are you doing this to us? And going back to what we were saying before about having that entrepreneurial spirit, the young people have it. Yeah. The people who are my age, people who are my age and older, it's almost like they're headless. They're headless. They're headless chickens in the sense that they're expecting other people to solve their problem, And now that we're having all these austerity cuts in the UK, And there's this real sense of panic and fear. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? How am I going to, afford my pension? How am I going to pay my bills? And nobody seems to be thinking, well, actually, here's an opportunity for me to create something. I'm actually being given a blessing here. I'm being given the chance to be free and to use my right brain and to be creative and to find a way to support myself and leave a legacy for my family. And this dependency that leaders are going to sort things out for you, it just seems to be almost it's crippling to watch people.
Here's I think it's because the narrative that was told in the last century was that when people moved from the farm to the city, the businesses that people worked for in the city had to sustain them in somehow. They had to keep their job, to pay the rent, to buy the groceries, to buy the car, blah blah blah. But what, as you were talking, it made, and so I'm saying that was we invented that kind of society. Now the young people don't have that anymore. There's no more pension, right? So but here's the thing that I think is really what I think is happening. And Sharita, I'm going to say this, but then I want you to chime in, because I'm going to use Hawaii as a case in point. Hawaii is the 50th state in North America. Hawaii was Hawaii when Hawaii was a Hawaii before they became a state. And the Hawaiian culture is all about aloha. They care for each other. People in North America look at Hawaii and say, why is everybody out there on welfare? Because they've always taken care of each other.
Yeah.
That's society. That's the way, that's their expectation, that grandmother lives in the bedroom next to with granddad, and they will be here with me and my children and my grandchildren forever, right? The ohana, right? And I think we're getting back to that. In the last century, when we built highways in North America, we bought a car every 3 years, and we knew we had a job for 25 or 35 years. We could move away from the family. We've dispersed the nuclear family. It's coming back together, and maybe only it's coming back together because of hangouts and blabs and the ways we can connect, but families are beginning to be tighter than they were. And I think, I don't just drink. I'm a beer drinker occasionally. In the last century, I would drink some beer out of a can that a factory made. This year, I'm drinking beer out of a glass bottle that Joe and Harry made down the road in a small artisan shop. Why? Because I care more about knowing the people that made it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting back to that. And when we get back to that, it doesn't matter how many years of employment we have. We care more about each other than we do about Mother IBM taking care of us, right? And so knowing that Sharita does a lot of work in Ethiopia and in Africa, culturally, that part of the planet has always been where the generations are connected. So I just want to pass the mic to you, Sharita, and tell us, Hawaii is kind of the connection that I have because I'm on the West Coast. I understand that. Tell us about your perspective on this notion that I'm sharing.
Before I answer your question, I want to go back to what Jenna is saying, because especially with what's going on in the UK, the thing that I realize is that people that were in these positions where they stayed with the company 20, 30, 40 years, see, they became comfortable. And they didn't have to think because they had someone else to do it for them. So now that they're not being able to have these foundations, what's happening is, oh my goodness, I got to start to think for myself because I don't have anyone to think for me. And as a result, fear and panic kick in. But there's liberation in thinking for yourself. Now, to loan it over into what you're saying, Art, that is why you can have these good, solid foundations of community that we are coming back into. It is because I know that I can take my idea outside of the workplace and loan it to those same people who are like-minded, those who think. And I can be successful because they see that I'm putting my thoughts into action, and they can appreciate that.
That makes you a true leader in my book. That's what a leader does, is lead from the front by example.
Yeah.
You know, but from that, I really am a big fan of right brain thinking, that creative, innovative way of being. And I don't think we value it enough. We tend to value rules and formulas and regulations and encouraging people to follow, do as you're told. Sorry, my mom just handed me something. Do as you're told. And we prize that kind of masculine left brain thinking over the softer, creative, feminine thinking, which is more about, well, let's see what we've got. How do we improve it? Let's share it. And let's inspire people to do things for themselves. And I'd like to see more people come up and be inspiring leaders, not just practical ones. Of course, we need practical leaders.
Jenna, I think that's an excellent point. And I think if we had a way of X-raying Apple and Google and Facebook, they would be more feminine than they are masculine. They would be more yin than and if that's true, then they are more about nurturing, right? Sure, Apple's, I don't know how many $1 billion, the biggest company on the planet, but their employees are really nurtured.
Yeah.
And they believe that they're on a mission to bring tools to me that nurture my intelligence and my ability to execute and be engaged and think differently and to create, right? That's a nurturing, that's a left brain, right? And I think when you were talking, I was thinking about I think Sharita said community, and then you built on that. That's where I think each of us has the opportunity as founders of whatever business that we're in to use that kind of thinking about building community. And community is not built on just another like or share. It's built on engaging and nurturing.
It's true.
Right. And if we learn how to engage and nurture, then we can grow a business on the strength of our ideas that we've committed and worked to present to that audience that we're engaging and nurturing. But it's the continuum that's all about beginning with empathy in mind for that community and then engaging and nurturing that community because you have something of value to give to them. And then they respond to you and say, you know what, you were right. That's good for me. Or if it's not good for me, it's good for my brother, my cousin, my coworker, my neighbor. And that's how things are promoted. But it begins with empathy, and it grows on the notion of building communities that are more yin power than yang, which kind of draws us back to the theme: do women make better leaders than men? It should say, what is the more powerful ethic or ethos, Venus or Mars, right? And what do we need more now?
Yeah.
Venus, do we need to make war or do we need to make love? You know what? I don't know how we characterize it, but I think it's if we make it less about men and women, we make it more about the energy and the thought process and what we believe about execution and leading and building community and how to do that. Then I think we get to it. We began with a gender specific conversation, and I think I've kind of gone into a gender neutral conversation that is more about making meaning in the world than it is about rising up one gender or over another.
So let me tell you some things that I do when I'm working with organizations, and I highly suggest these organizations take this direction, and they usually do because I'm pretty persuasive in
yes, you are.
So one of the things that's important to me is definitely the building of community, and through that, you have to, before you can get to that building of community or alongside it, you have to empower. So what I do is when I'm going into an organization, a corporation, I'm going to go work with their executive, the entire organization. One of the questions that I ask them is, what are you doing with your social responsibility? I want to know how that money's being spent, because at the end of the day, I want to spend some of it. And how I want to spend it is I want you, as this organization that's getting these, building this culture of character within your organization, a culture with values, to give it to another organization that otherwise wouldn't have been able to afford it. So it could be to a school, some children. It could be to a nonprofit organization that services people. Give it to them. And when I go into work with that organization who's servicing, what I ask them to do is create a movement within that contains a social project. When you couple values and character with immediate implementation through social responsibility, you build community like you cannot even imagine. And the way that you do that is because you're empowering and equipping, and you're having them go immediately and put it to action. From that, lots and lots of projects are coming forth that wouldn't have been able to come forth otherwise. And it all starts from one organization saying, I'm going to contribute $2,500 for material. I, myself, have a social responsibility as well, so I dedicate my time to this. And in turn, there's another organization that has this foundation. You know what I tell that corporation that's working with me? Now you know where you can go through sponsorship. If you sponsored a school, if you sponsored a village, now you know where you can go for your next employee. So the circle continues to go, because they're coming into your organization and they're fully equipped with how you think, what you believe, and they know the culture of your organization based on what you've given them, and stay completely involved with it. And so when we are giving back in that way, we're creating our community and a culture, not just in our building, outside of it. And that's powerful. That is extremely powerful.
That's powerful, because if you think about the quantum physics of people on this rock we call home, Earth, right? We're all connected. And when you have a community that seeks to connect even in a greater way, in a more material way, they're just living out the intention that we're all here for in the first place, which should fuel your inner fire and bring more light into your life and inspire you in a greater way to become a greater culture, and then go off and accomplish even more. That's a powerful way of telling that truth. Thank you for that, Sharita. I liked hearing that. I wrote it down.
Sorry, Diane, I was going to say, to go back to the leadership part of the conversation, that takes a real skill. That kind of leadership is personal. It's not something you can go to MIT and learn. You know, it's not something that somebody can teach you in a book. That's something that going back, what you were saying, Art, it's about the original point of us being here. And when somebody can tap into that energy, when somebody recognizes, right, I'm here to serve, not to give. And the more I give, the more I get. Wow, boom. And
boom.
Once that penny dropped on my head, once I stopped trying to make money and I started to try and serve and make the world a better place in the little way that I do. And what you said, Sharita, really struck a chord with me, is about this feeling of empowerment, because you work with corporations and you work with business and you empower the people within that kind of structure. I work with individuals who've got their struggles and whatever. And those are the people I empower. So every single one of us has a gift and an ability to empower each other in our own unique way, because there's 7 billion of us here. And how much energy is that? That's so creative. If we can harness it properly, when you harness that creativity, you're not competing with each other. And going back to leadership, it takes a real leader to be able to say, do you know what? I have the vision. I see where we need to go, but they also have the skill and the empathy and as well as the mental ability, the sort of the left brain thinking to take somebody there. And that takes real skill. And it also takes courage, because not everybody is willing to step up and take that responsibility, because it's that saying, with power comes responsibility. And it can be frightening, especially if you're the person Like, for example, myself, I grew up in a single parent household, and we grew up on an estate, you know, in the projects. I had all those kind of stereotypical tick the boxes things against me. And according to society, the rules of society state that I shouldn't be ambitious. I shouldn't want to better myself. But I had that stirring inside me my entire life, which was why I never kept a job, because I always wanted to. But I didn't have necessarily the skills and the support around me, because those people didn't know either. And it took me having the courage to go, do you know what? I believe in myself just enough to try, you know? And it takes more people to find that inside. But it's hard. It's so hard when you've got the whole world saying you're not good enough, you know? So as a parent, I see my job is as a force to inspire my child to do better, to be better than me. The same way my mom inspired me to be better than her is how I'm trying to inspire my daughter to be better than me. And each one, you know, and we'll change, when the things will change.
I am inspired by that 90-second or however long it took you to say that you just shared, because it talks about the courage you had in your character that you are to accomplish more in your life, and you just had the courage to make it happen. That's amazing. And I bring character forward from Sharita from the last hour, and you've introduced courage into the conversation, Jenna Lee Anderson, and that's a powerful idea. It's an important component of what character is, because you can't have character without courage, because it's about standing up for what you believe. And that's what leadership is. It's about standing up and having the courage, and not being afraid that my ideas are not worthy, because I've committed to my ideas. Then I am going to stand on this platform of my ideas and have the courage to carry those ideas forward. And I think when you do that, and Sharita, correct me if I'm wrong, are you saying that that's what makes character, when you've done all of those things?
It is, and it's about seeing the value in others and investing in it. It's about seeing the value in others and investing in them so that they can in turn at some point do the same thing. It's a cycle that just keeps going and going and going. And what it creates is a solid foundation. I mean, when I tell those, you know, CEOs, look, you can go back and you can pull your employees from these communities that you help. You know exactly what you're getting when you get them, because you have invested in them these values and these principles and created a culture for them to live by. It's a no-brainer for them to do it, because they see the value, they see the potential in it. True leadership is having the courage to also invest in others. To invest in others. You have to invest in other people. And you have to do it even when everyone else is saying that's not a worthy a person to do it, or that's not a worthy community in which to do it in. You have to do it, stand up and do it anyway.
You've got to hire people smarter than yourself. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And we get paid exponentially. We get the reward for investing in others is a personal development for us. You get the reward of personal growth, of satisfaction when you give. You know, I'm a big fan of giving.
I was just Googling courage plus character, and a couple of things came up, but this one is Bruce Lee. Do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult life.
Yes.
Right. And this is the other one. I'm not sure this is Martin Luther King. And Martin Luther King said, "We must build dikes of courage to hold back the flood of fear."
See, you can hold it back with, all of that's centered around character, resiliency, you know, strengthening through those things it's a must in these times. It's imperative.
This is amazing. Dr. Vibe, you've been quiet for a while. I want you to chime in on this.
Well, it's a show for the ladies, so I'm giving.
You've abdicated. Come on, Dr. Vibe. We expect more from you.
No. One of the best ways to let people grow is give them space, and that's another thing about leadership: giving people space.
That's an excellent point. That is an excellent point.
Is he stuck?
For a second he was. Dr. Vibe, you're freezing up on us. We can't hear you or see you move. Dr. Vibe, refresh because you're stuck. You're frozen. So somebody
come in conveniently, right?
So with Jenna or Sharita, can you answer this question that's in the stream? Preacher's Kid says, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it the Asian culture that has the notion that leadership is very unlike it is here in the West, which is hierarchy driven, but rather center of the nucleus driven? I can't confidently answer. I think that's a true statement. I just can't confidently answer it.
I know that in a Chinese culture, as you guys say Asian, it's trying to translate it in my head. Oh yeah, I know in the Chinese culture, what they do is they focus on community. It's very much this idea of individualism is a very Western thing, you know. So a lot of other cultures, it's not natural. It is part, you know, in African cultures, in indigenous cultures, going back to what we were talking about before about supporting each other. Traditionally, you know, we lived in societies, and I think the Chinese still hold that quite dear. And it is very much about when we all win, when one win, we all win, and that's the way that's their culture. For example, their school. Funny, there's a quick thing about Chinese education. I know this, and it blew me away when I read it. Was that the children, they start school at age 5 or something, but for 2 years they learn citizenship. They learn how to be decent people before they learn numbers and not English. They learn Mandarin, and before they learn the other subjects, the first thing they learn is citizenship. So it is about remembering that you're part of something bigger and global, and that's part of their education system. So to answer your question, Preacher,
that's a good answer. That's a great answer, and I don't know if the roots of this saying are from the Asian culture, but I know I've heard it here in the sports analogy, but I often apply it to the business world, and it's the notion that team is an acronym for together we all achieve more.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Right. And when you don't begin with that intention and you're a solo operator on a team, it's no longer a team.
That's right.
The equivalent to that is in Ubuntu. It says, I am because we are.
Wow.
Yes, I am because we are. So it really Africans really embrace that understanding that we are not unless we are all together. I can't be without you.
That's right.
That's powerful. I am
because we are.
That's very powerful. I'm just going to say this quickly because my battery's about to die. But the way this conversation was unplanned. So the way that we behave towards each other in the West, in particular, and is so unnatural, and it's we think it is natural, but it's not, because I don't know if you've ever seen it. There's this photograph of this tribe in Africa somewhere, where this archaeologist or whoever it was came up with for example, a ball. I'm probably misquoting it. He came with a present and he gave it to one child and he said, "This is for you." And the child sat down and put it in the center. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And it's like, "This isn't for me. This is for all of us." And he didn't understand the idea of just me having it. And there's this it's a really beautiful picture on I think National Geographic or somewhere, where you've got a circle of children and their feet are all they're sitting next to each other and their feet are facing inwards at this object. I cannot remember what it is for the life of me.
I've seen that. It's really, really powerful.
Powerful, because the idea of one of us having something without the others
It
having.
just didn't equate. They don't have that's not part of their language even. It's like it's like Ubuntu. I am because we are. And if you've given me a gift, you've given a gift to all of us, which is and I've been participating in a blab that a woman does, and Navol Lavak, and it's a soulful kind of blab, and she's all about using nature as a metaphor to teach the world about what it means to be human. And I agree with that. And so as I listened to the first one, I reflected, and when I moved from New Jersey to California a long time ago, somebody said that Carmel, California, was the most beautiful place on the West Coast. So I went there, and the 17-mile drive is a beautiful golf course. It's incredibly big service there. I mean, it's just amazing. And it's you can almost feel the California coast. This is the last place you could be in California and still be this far out in the Pacific Ocean. And the ocean sweeps onto the land, and it beats the crap out of the trees, right? And the trees are bent over and all gnarly, but they're beautiful. And the notion that I go to 17-mile drive in Carmel and I look at this splendor and this amazing landscape, and I say how wonderful this really is, how blessed I am to see these amazing trees that have survived so long against this windblown landscape. And then when I turn around and I go to lunch, and there's somebody walking in a walker or a stroller, and they're twisted and they're bent over, I might avert my eyes like, oh my gosh, that's so terrible. I can't look. So sad. Poor person. We don't judge the trees in the forest or along the coast that have been suffering through winter, summer, spring, and fall for a long time. And they're beat up, but they are surviving. But we look at people and we look at each other and we make those kinds of judgments. It's the judgment on color, on shape, on size, on condition. I'm twisted. And it's a human condition, perhaps. But the sooner we can unlearn that, and the more appropriate to this theme, the leader that embraces the notion that people are just people, and the diverse population is good in service to the audience that we are in service to. We need their creativity. We need the diversity of ideas, and all of the people on the team, I am one of them, are in this together. I mean, the notion that nature is the metaphor for being more embracing and accepting of our brothers and sisters on the planet is central, I think, to being a good citizen on the planet.
Global citizen.
Yeah, we have to unlearn some of the things we learned in the last centuries, where we were a lot less character focused and more material focused.
Absolutely. And on that note, guys, I've got to love you and leave you because my battery is literally on 3%. So
Jenna, thanks so much for coming into this blab. You have shared so much with your presence and with your wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, guys, and hopefully I will see you again. I will follow. Like I said, I'm new to blab. It's like my first proper day. But I will figure out how to follow you, and I will catch up with you guys again soon, and we will share more love and more inspiration. I love this talk. I didn't even finish my drink.
So. Take care, Jenna.
Bye-bye. Bye, Jenna.
Take care.
Okay, guys. Love. Bye.
Bye-bye. It looks like Dr. Vibe tried to pop in several times, and he's still in the stream, but I don't know if he's not able to get in now. And I have to take my dog. My grandchildren are calling for my dog to come for a visit. I've got to take a 20-mile drive, take my puppy, and go play with the babies. So that's how I'm going to spend the rest of my afternoon. Sharita, can I say this? I'm going to stop the recording because I want to comment with it. I want to make sure that as we sign off for this blab, that we talked about women make better leaders than men, that we segued into just a conversation about leadership and also blended in the notion of what it means to be a good human on this rock we call Earth, and serving each other in material ways. I think this was a great blab. I'm so glad to have been here for it. And I want to honor some of the words that came out of this. Many of them are Sharita's, who's sitting here in the co-host seat. That for those listening now and for those listening on replay, these are words when you think of leadership that you should think of as well. Respect, empathy, the ability to negotiate, the awesome responsibility to build a great character in yourself, to understand what it means, what the word equality means, to understand the intention of the word inclusive, to think about a Dr. Vibe. Motion causes friction, and I'll let you ponder that one, because that's a Bunsen burner talk that Dr. Blab shared in here, but it is something that when you think about men leading and women leading and motion causing friction, something to think about. When you think about business, think about the rules of the game. Think about the relationships in the game of business. Think about, and remember this, don't forget where you came from when you are a founder or you're in a business. And always remember to be more you. Remember that supporting the people that you want to help come up, support them. Remember to be the foundation that the people coming up behind you can stand on to get there. Have fun, but most of all, have the courage to do all of the things that we just said. Have the courage to believe in yourself. Have the courage to stand up for the ideas that are yours. Have the courage to stand up for all of those things, because those things are what make the character that lives within you. And when you do all those things and you're a leader, then you will have all the things that are required to build a culture of values, which is, I attribute that to Sharita. The culture of values is an idea that you can't do all that without first adhering to the tenets that come with all the words that I said prior to that. So remember that. If you have only one takeaway, it's about courage and character and building cultures of values in the businesses that we build, and having courage and character if you're an employee in a business and standing up for your ideas. Sharita, as always, thank you. I so enjoy your thoughtful and insightful and compelling ideas on these blabs. I learned so much. And Dr. Vibe, I know you're out there. I wish you were in one of the squares, but thank you for your thoughtful and insightful commentary. And A Preacher's Kid, there's so many people in the stream that have been adding questions and ideas and commentary. We're going to do this again. Hopefully we'll all join again on another Saturday and continue this conversation, because I believe that whatever we're talking about is always about leadership.
Yes.
And so whatever the subject, we can always insert leadership into it. So this is my Saturday gig. I enjoy this because I use this as not my knowledge sharing, but my knowledge learning. And thank you guys for allowing me to learn from you all. And let's do it again. Until next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Take care.